60 Minutes, they interviewed me in 2005, 2006, and they aired it, and it was like all over the news, like all over CBS, like all over the news, and it's like this guy's not only making money from playing video games, but he's making money doing the business. At that moment, my mom and dad's like, "Oh, so you're not just playing games?" It's kind of funny. It was like it took like literally 7 years to like finally convince them.
Sup, jokers? Well, I was gonna make a post about this on my socials and stuff, but then I thought about it and I was like, man, this is probably a good time to not do gaming stuff and just talk about something because it's just like that that one specifically like really hit, and it was like damn, like there's like people that reach out to me every day, like, you know, with the how you do it and like what happens when you go through different stuff, and it's like that, like, for me anyway, like in the beginning you go like, you had just have it in your head, you're like, oh, I want to do this thing, and like I'm gonna just do it and everybody's gonna love it. And this was, for me, it was like almost 10 years ago, and it, like, gaming and stuff was not what it is now. Like it grew massively in just 10 years. Like back then it was like, it was still a like just a dream. It's just something, it'll pass, go, it's not real. And now, like, it's more than, like, it's crazy how it is. But what I digress. So, when I did it, I was just like, oh, everybody's gonna support it. Like, it's never like that. Never like that. It's not even in just gaming, but literally anything you want to do that's not normal life, right? It's like, if you go to whatever your main social hub is, or where your family is, your friends are, and you go like, hey, I really like baking, I'm opening up a bakery. If you have 100 friends, like 10 of them are probably going to see it, 5 of them are probably going to comment, and probably 1 or 2 of them are going to be even somewhat like supportive, like actually supportive. And it's like those are the only like 2 people that actually matter. It's just like one of those things. If I could talk to myself back then, like, it's only like those 2 people. It's like only the, like, 3 people that subscribe to your YouTube that don't even play games. Because at the time I was like, I'm gonna play Call of Duty. It's like those 3 people from the beginning that don't even watch video games, let alone play them. No, they subscribe, and it's like those people I never forget even to this day. And it's not easy. Like, you think that it's going to happen, and then it never comes. It never comes, because here we are, like, way deep into the journey. We've already got past all right, well, you can't do that, you can't leave your job, or you can't do that, you got to get a real job. You can't you can't, people will tell you you can't, and then you do it, and they still, well, that's not enough, well, that's not enough, or this is not enough. They always got to push the goalpost no matter what you do, until you are the ninja of whatever you're doing. And I use ninja because he's, like, off the top of my head, the biggest um or creator recently. And I know there's a lot, but I'm just using him as an example. He's the biggest. And I'm pretty sure even then there's somebody in his life trying to move the goalpost, and it's like you're never going to get the support you think you're going to get from the people that you grow up around or even live around, or your family. It's just never going to come. And it's like, and a lot of it is going to be like, a lot of it is very passive, like, oh, hey, I think you can do it, and then they'll never interact with you. You have to be grateful for those people too, because they're not you know you can't do it every day. It's not about, like, being vengeful or bitter or anything like that. Like, this is just how life is, because then when you do make it and you do finally reach that goalpost, they're going to be like they were there from the beginning. You got to take all of that in, and you have to be able to do something with it. And I mean, I guess, like, that's why I, for one, am very confident in doing things, especially there's things that I know I can do. So there's things I know I know I can't do. I'm not insane when I say, like, hey, I can do that, because I know there's things I can't do. Like, for one, Fortnite. If you've never watched, like, championship grand final level Fortnite. It is the most insane thing I've ever seen. They are building and editing, and then you have to keep track of like they're fighting for walls for cover. And then you have to edit. Then you have to track the guy through the wall. You're up on he's up on the ceiling. You got to track that. Like there's so much going on in like the end game of competitive Fortnite. I know that I cannot do that. No matter what I do, that's hard. It's like it's the equivalent of when I was growing up and we were like, yo, let's play StarCraft. StarCraft was hard. Like you're talking about like hundreds of actions per minute. It's crazy. And I know that like no matter what I do, that's not something that I can do right now. So I never did it. Um but I always go into things with a chip on my shoulder because it's always somebody like, oh, you can't do that. But then for everything that they've told me that I can do, I've done it. You know, everybody has like their own personal list. I've done everything that I've ever wanted to do just because I wanted to do them. And it may not be in a grand scale like you imagine when you started, but it's like, yeah, well, in actuality, I did that. So it happened. And you have to be your own guide for that because if you let other people guide you, it'll just, you know, you'll never make it. You'll never make it. You'll never be happy. You'll always be chasing what somebody else, what their image of success is, right? It's like, you know, for me, if you know, it's like, all right, well, you weren't a pro gamer, blah blah blah. It wasn't, you didn't have like a, I was, if I didn't make 30K a year playing video games, like that's okay. I've made more money than most people that playing video games as a quote unquote semi-pro, and that didn't come easy at all. Like none of it is easy. So just to get to that, just to get into that bracket of like, all right, well now I'm not just, you know, I'm not aspiring. Like, all right, now I got to this level where I'm a semi-pro, where I'm not making crazy amounts of money doing this, but I am making enough to get by, and that's more than a lot of people that are still aspiring, and it's not easy to do. It's a lot. It's a long. People think it's like, oh, you just play games. Like, no, I don't just play. Like, depending on what the game is. Like, all right, I spend a lot of time in fighting games, right? Okay, bet you have to learn your character. You have to learn all the ins and outs. The like, this is hours and hours of practice. This is like, to be fair, like, I started in Street Fighter 4. It's a little bit. It was a little bit more difficult than Street Fighter 5 dexterity wise, like doing like we had one frame links and you know stuff like that, and you had to be very very precise on pixels and frame data, and it's not easy. So you have to like master your characters. Like you're just drilling combos. Like how you got to learn. You got because you have to master these combos. You can't think about how to do it while you're playing the game. That's one thing that separates better players from worse. Like you have to know these combos, and for every situation that might pop up, how to respond to those situations, and you have to know the frame data. So if your opponent presses a button, all right, they press that button, so I know I have this button to counter with because of the frame data, not because it's a lot. Like it's not easy at all. Like it's a lot of work, and it's, especially if it's something you don't love, like that you're super passionate about. It's a hell of a lot of work just to do that and get into this like semi-pro bracket, because then to get above that you have to be way above and beyond just everything you did to get to that point, and I don't think people understand or care about that. Or like I'm the type of person, like I'm not just like I'm the gamer, right? I don't make a lot of content because like most of the content is just me be practicing something, and that's not entertaining, and it's not something that I want to make you watch. Like, yo, watch me do the same combo for 7 hours. It's not really entertaining, especially because when I'm at work, I'm focused on what I'm doing. So, like, because now everything changed, because that's like old school stuff. You just go to the tournament and win, and then that's it. Like, then everything else will come. But now everything else changed because now you have to have a social presence, right? Like you have to be on Twitch, you have to be on YouTube, or people have to know something about you. Like you have to be a personality. You can't just be like the game player. You can be good at very good at games. I know there's pros that are very good, but they're not getting sponsorships or getting deals or things like that because they don't have the other half of this. And it's like, yo, you're not just a gamer, like your gamer tag, like your face or whatever, like that's your brand. And if your brand is not, if it doesn't show value, then people don't care. So it's like, you know, hey, maybe I do videos just because I need to grow a following, but you know, that's just how it is now. Like you can't just be good at games. You have to be a very good personality. So when people go, hey, this is the face of my brand, or this is the face of my company, this is, we're sponsoring this person, you have to be worthy of that sponsorship. And like it's a lot of work because now you're doing going hard on the game to try to be the best at it in a world where everybody's trying to be the best at it all the time. And now you also working on your social media brand and your reach and the content you put out. Like making content is not easy. Like I'm gonna make this video, it's probably gonna go on for 15 minutes. I gotta cut it down to 10. Then I gotta share it on different platforms, and I gotta take clips from it and put it on. Like it's a lot of work. Like this is not easy at all. So, you know, when people are out here doing this stuff, the least you can do is like, hey, like man, that guy's putting a lot of work. But you know, none of it comes easy, and it never gets easier outside of this because, like I said, people keep pushing back the goalposts, and that's probably why you see me a lot of times. Like I always am doing different things because like I said, it's just things that I know I could do. Like people would be like, all right, well, if you don't like team games, why are you playing League of Legends? Like, well, because I know in my head that I could do that. And right now, today, that's the biggest platform you can go to as a gamer, like money wise and exposure wise. Like that's the biggest place you can go. So sometimes I'll be like, all right, let me log in and hate myself for 15 minutes. It's like, oh, why don't you think things that you like? Well, I don't have a problem with that. It's just that I can be the top, like I can be the most dominant WWE 2K player in the world, right? But what difference is it? Like there's no tournaments, so it doesn't matter if you're the best on the internet. Like what does that? It doesn't mean anything. Globally, of course, it'll mean something to me, but like globally, like what does that mean? If I go to a random person in the street, like, hey, I'm the best such and such in the world, like all right, whatever, go about your day. And you know, like, and then you think about those goalposts and the chips on your shoulder. Like, all right, well, if I'm the best at this, I can go be the best at that, and I can make more money. And I can be more known, and you know, it's things like that. That's why, you know, people ask me all the time, like, you like Fatality, and like, why don't you play Quake? Like, well, I play Quake a little bit, but then it's like the work you have to put in is a lot of work, and then it's like, all right, what do you get out of that? Doesn't matter if I'm happy doing it, but if I still have to go do things I don't want to do, then I don't want to, you know, I don't do it. And there's things I do for pure enjoyment, but that's all it is, and I don't put a lot of stock into that. Yes, very extremely casual, but it's like if it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter. And then there's some scenes that I'm in, like you know, I play Super Show a lot. It's a super. There's a very casual part to it, and then there's competitive things to it. And then what I try to do is make it something that people care about because that changes things a lot. When there's somebody that's like, all right, I just play it for fun, blah blah blah, but then you make them care about it, and suddenly they they have to come up, they have to be better, right? They have to be good at it because they want to beat you and make you shut up. So but there's a lot of different levels to a lot of different things. But I saw that and I just wanted to talk because I don't do that very often. Maybe I'll do that some more. But you know, that's for anybody out there that's like, hey, I want to do something. Like it never comes. And the closer you get to where you want to be at, the further they move the goalposts to what it means for you to be successful. So you have to keep it in mind, like yourself. And yes, to a degree, you have to be able to say like, "F those guys, I'm going to do this." And you have to focus on those like two people that support you to the end of the earth because they're the only people that matter when it comes to you and your dreams. That doesn't mean be a jerk to everybody else, but that's just how it is. And it never gets easier because life always gets harder, but you just have to keep going and do the best you can do. But I guess until next time, I'm gonna catch y'all drugs later. Go do that thing that you do.